So I've come to an area called Tarawera, and there's a very large waterfall here. I'm looking at the stream behind me. It looks like the level is quite high, and which is perhaps good news because this waterfall is unique in that it pours out of a cliff face. So there's no actual top, like it comes out of 2 or 3 different holes in the cliff. And I was just at the information center and they said there's a level 1, a level 2 and a level 3 to this waterfall, and it depends on how much rain there's been and how flooded the lake is above the waterfall. Most photos I've seen are level 1. A few others are at level 2, which means that the waterfall comes out from a hole higher up the cliff. At the information center, the woman said that they don't even have a picture of it coming out at level 3. So that seems quite rare. Maybe there's a chance we might see that. So I got about a 20-minute walk to get to the waterfall, and we'll check it out. There's actually a really nice little 2-foot waterfall behind the bush over there that I just can't quite get a shot of it because too many trees in the way. But just looking at this, trying to figure out a composition that makes some sense. I just don't want to have a hodgepodge of elements that don't really make any compositional sense. First view of that is just breathtaking. It's kind of exceeding expectations actually. So there should be a lot of composition options here. I'm gonna take my time to explore around and I'll show you what I've got. Well, I've looked all the way around, including way over the far side there. I've determined that there is a reason why pretty much all the best shots I've seen have been taken from right here. There's going to have to be a pano to get everything around to there. And my tripod is very precariously perched right there. As you can see, that's the only way I could figure it to get where I really want to be. I haven't put the camera on yet because I don't want to lose it over the edge. I'll just do that when I'm ready to shoot. And there's a lot of mist coming off the waterfall, so I just have to keep wiping the lens. And I've got a shower cap I'm going to put over the lens while I'm doing it. A couple of options here for composition from right here. I like what we see down there. That looks good, but when you look over here, I don't like how that tree intersects right with the waterfall. So my choice was to come over here on the other side of this rock, and now it aligns quite nicely. Not quite as good that way, but that's the compromise. Well, I've taken the shot. I wasn't going to show you me shooting because I had to use my hands to hold the camera all the time. I didn't want to lose it over the edge. So I did it in a pano, about 4 shots vertical, and then I realized that I could virtually get the whole thing in just one shot landscape mode. So I did that too, just in case things don't stitch together well. So I don't know if you can see that on camera, but just up here there's quite a bit of mist across this area. So what I do is, so I have a shower cap that I put over the camera, and just the last second remove it when I take the shot, put it straight back on. Just on the hike back out now from the falls. I think we timed that right because really wanted to get that waterfall with the top part coming out. I guess it doesn't always do that, or rarely. We've had here 4 straight days of heavy rain. It's supposed to be also today, it just hasn't happened yet. By the way, this is a really nice little piece of the river here. I'd noticed a composition just over here that might be something I can get something out of. Noticed it on the way in. So I'm just going to stop here now. There's colors that are aqua and green. Some kind of a moss on the bottom of the stream. I ought to be able to get something here interesting, so have a look at that. I'm scouting around the scene quite a bit. There's a lot that's interesting, and I'm trying to figure out how to get it all into one shot. I don't think it's possible. This root system is really interesting. That tree is obviously very interesting. And that tree in the background is very interesting. I'm thinking the best angle is this way. But I like the color in the water just over here, which is not so obvious over there. Or I could shoot it from this angle. The tree looks quite nice from this angle also. Then I get the color of the water. And it's just starting to rain. I don't know if that's gonna be good for the image or not. I also noticed a lot of bubbles, maybe not a lot, but a few bubbles floating down the river. Long exposure, that could look quite interesting. So from here you can see kind of the composition I was going for. That rock a little bit separated from the trees. Comes out a little bit like this. And in the previous angle, so I tried horizontal and vertical and tried to get the roots in there. I'm not sure if I like that. Well, let's be honest, these images did require quite a bit of heavy-duty editing to bring them back to a point where I was somewhat satisfied with them. You might even call it turd polishing. As you may recall in the waterfall shot, I had the camera and the tripod perched in a rather precarious position on a pointy rock that was quite slippery and wet. And so I was paranoid about even touching it for fear of it moving. Of course, when you're doing a pano, it's multiple shots, you don't want your tripod to move at all. And it was also difficult for me to get my eye to the eyepiece. So I was kind of winging it a little bit. As a result, the images turned out to be quite a bit underexposed. And I also totally underestimated how often I would have to wipe the lens of the camera. But let me show you how bad it was and what I managed to bring them back to. Well, this is where this image started out, which is almost laughably bad. As you can see, it's very underexposed. This is a multi-shot panorama shooting from left to right. I didn't do any bracketing of exposures, which in hindsight, obviously I probably should have, but the reasoning was that I didn't want to have the lens exposed to the mist for very long at all. I did deliberately underexpose it a little bit for retaining the detail in the whites, but the blacks were a bit of an issue. This first layer is an adjustment of exposure, which brings back a heck of a lot. And now you can see the obvious problem with the water spots on the lens, which I got rid of with various techniques, including frequency separation and dodging and burning. And as you can see, that took care of a fair amount of that. Didn't clean it up entirely, but an improvement nonetheless. Any of the more stubborn water spots I just took out by straight up cloning them out. The next 3 layers are just the various contrast, dodge and burn, and it brings a little bit of life into the picture. Coming from that to that. And then the last layer here, I just added a little bit of fake mist in the upper portion. Adding the mist in the background was a bit of a challenge because of this tree on the right. I had to get the mist behind the tree and not overlapping it. Zooming in on this, you can see that this waterfall does come out of multiple holes in the cliff, which is unusual. You don't see this very often. Comparing the before and after, this is actually quite a huge difference. However, there's only so far that you can polish a turd, and will this show up in my portfolio? I'm going to say probably not. I would give myself a 4 out of 10 on this one. I think it's important to show the fails as well as the good images, just to recognize that, yeah, we all fail most of the time anyways, and why not show it just because it's an interesting location. Looking now at the second image that I shot at Tarawera, this one had a much better starting point. It wasn't so underexposed, everything was pretty good. I had thought that this was my final edit, but the more I looked at it, the more I didn't like this one section with reflection of the sky in the water. So that kind of ruins the picture for me. I did go to the extra extent of editing that out, and it came out like this. My source material for that patch actually comes from another picture shot in the other direction, which I just flipped horizontally and made it skew into position, and other parts of it are just cloning from various areas. So this really, I thought, improved the picture, although it's not entirely believable in all areas, but again, a big improvement. This is the unedited version of the picture and the edited version. I wanted this composition to be about the trees that were all leaning in towards each other. I could have done without this tree on the right, but what are you going to do? It's hard to take out. I think overall I might give myself a 6 out of 10 on this image. Good, but not great. I think the biggest weakness of this image is all the clutter that's in the background. What would have improved it is if I had fog on this day, and that would have separated the busy background from the trees that I wanted to draw attention to. Well, there's 2 images that turned out okay, but maybe not great, and so I'll probably want to go back to this location someday. I actually hiked to this waterfall from the bottom end. It's also possible to hike to it from the top end, which I may want to do the next time. And if you go there, all you need to do is get a boat across the lake at the top, and then the hike is maybe about twice the distance. But as far as I've heard, definitely worth checking out. Alright, so that's it for this time. I'll see you next time. Bye.